Gaming Bolt presents 15 games that need the first-person treatment like Cyberpunk 2077. When rumours came out about CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 being a first-person game, many were sceptical. When it was confirmed, some fans felt outright betrayed and wanted a third-person option to feel that much closer to their character. But if a developer known for primarily third-person experiences can handle a new perspective, then what would other games be like in that regard? Let's examine 15 games that need the first-person treatment, whether for reals or as twisted experiments. Rayman Legends. Hey, if a first-person perspective could work for Mirror's Edge, less so for Mirror's Edge Catalyst, then why not for a great game like Rayman Legends? Imagine hopping and bopping through levels, frustratingly mistiming jumps for new reasons, and just appreciating the beauty of the UbiArt framework in all of its glory. Of course, once again, this would probably be a good alternative rather than the de facto perspective. Tom Clancy's The Division. Though the essence of Tom Clancy's The Division is tactical gameplay through the use of cover and abilities, having a first-person perspective would offer some interesting options. The cover system could be implemented in a more nuanced manner, depending on how exposed the player's POV is, so the longer you have a clear shot, the more accurately enemies could hit you. It would require changes to enemy accuracy, bullet spread, recoil and whatnot, but regardless, we could see a first-person loot grinder with more emphasis on cover being interesting. Speaking of which, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor-Martyr. Many have lamented Neo-Core Games' Warhammer 40k Inquisitor-Martyr for a number of reasons. The plodding gameplay and time to kill for enemies is one such point, especially if you're used to Diablo 3 and Warframe. However, throw in a first-person mode and the game suddenly becomes more interesting. Hiding behind cover and lining up your shots, picking out key targets in a group, etc. becomes a lot more practical. Of course, the cover system would have to be more intuitive than it is now as well. Red Dead Redemption. Would Red Dead Redemption be a better experience in first person than third person, especially with all the complex open world mechanics? Well, yes. Imagine riding your horse as you fight off against enemies on a train, or just traversing the amazing looking landscape during the wee hours of the morning. Sounds amazing already, right? Given that Grand Theft Auto 5 was patched with a first-person mode by Rockstar, we can at the very least think that this idea exists somewhere in the studio. Gears of War 4. More as an interesting alternative, Gears of War 4's gore and violence could become that much more visceral in first person. Furthermore, the sheer visual prowess and atmosphere of the environments would be that much cooler to take in. And hey, just to make things more involving, have all the cutscenes from the first-person view to further emphasize the immersion. Hitman 2016. The third-person view in Hitman is kind of essential to the gameplay, where threats are coming from, observing the entire environment, noticing opportunities for assassination, the list goes on. Which could be said for many games on this list, but hear us out. Why not introduce a first-person mode as an option, but also make it essential for a set of challenges? The limited perspective could shake things up, if not outright turn the gunplay and stealth kills on their heads. FORTNITE. Much like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, FORTNITE should have a first-person only queue for Battle Royale players. This makes situational and auditory awareness that much more important, especially if players can't peek around corners at foes. The building aspect could take getting used to in first person, but if turned into a limited time mode, it would be cool to see the strategies that players could come up with. For Honor. Fighting games haven't historically been noted for their first person perspectives. Thankfully, For Honor isn't your typical fighting game. The system of choosing different directions for attacking, blocking and countering could fit well into this perspective. Couple that with a few refinements and the visceral action becomes all the more compelling. The Last of Us. Naughty Dog games aren't in first person because the developer wants players to form a connection with the characters. The Last of Us did experiment with first person, but eventually dropped it in favour of the signature third person perspective. So why not add it as an option to the first game? Allow players to actually become Joel as he cares for Ellie, and let cutscenes take place from the first person to emphasize the brutality of their situation. Can you imagine the catharsis from playing the final segment in first person as well? Diablo 3. If Warhammer Vermintide 2 can handle hordes of enemies rushing at the player, then Diablo 3 would be an even trippier ride. Granted, it would be nightmarish in many ways, whether it's the demon hunter vaulting around murdering scores of foes, or the crusader shield bashing through crowds. Some rebalancing might be required in enemy difficulty and numbers, but hey, who doesn't want to experience those room clearing moments in first person? Gravity Rush 2. Okay, but for real, I just want to play Gravity Rush 2 in first person to see how nauseating it can become. It's a masochistic desire for sure, one that would emulate many VR experiences. But if tuned properly, it could be an inviting trip through the skies without a care in the world. Combat could also be made more freeform to allow for more precision. It would be bizarre and unwieldy, but who knows? Maybe some will take to its quirks. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Naval combat, swashbuckling duels, capturing forts, exploring the deep blue, casually sailing around with your crew, and of course stealth and parkour could easily translate into first person for Assassin's Creed 4. How many of these facets are in Sea of Thieves that work out surprisingly well? If nothing else, do away with the current combat mechanics and implement a Dishonored-like system for countering, shooting and slashing. It wouldn't be easy, but it would still be an absolute delight to explore the world through Edward Kenway's eyes. Dead Space. The one area I could see Dead Space losing some appeal by going first person is in the HUD. It was pretty minimalistic with the map, health and ammo count existing on Isaac's suit or weapons. Some of these aspects could still function as such, but it just won't be the same. Thankfully, with the sheer terror that Dead Space offers in its action, not to mention the precision required for shooting, we could see a first-person option working, and hopefully it won't be an on-rails like Dead Space Extraction. Inside. Come on, everything about Inside indicates that it could work from a first-person perspective. The puzzles might take some figuring out, but what is Inside if not an extremely well-made first-person adventure title? The aesthetic, soundtrack and stealth portions would be ripe for the perspective. It kinda makes you wonder how many first-person horror titles could work as side-scrolling puzzle platformers, to be honest. Just Cause 3. Snappy movements, huge explosions and tons of noise can make for an exhausting experience. So of course, we should add a first-person mode to Just Cause 3. If not for the sake of hilarity, then just to bring players that much closer to the action. How many explosions does one need to see before they're satisfied? If simply playing Just Cause 3 won't answer that question, then hopefully experiencing it in first person will. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.